I picked Samantha up from her apartment and we hit the road. It was one of the best moments of my life. We flew first class, stayed at a 5-star resort, and were pampered like royalty. A weekend full of fun, sun, sand, waves, food, and drink. And even better, Samantha was very grateful and constantly tried to show how much she enjoyed being with me. By the time it was time to head back, we were both completely tanned, and I knew every inch of Samantha's fantastic body. On Tuesday, I dropped Samantha off at her apartment. Samantha kissed me very passionately at the front door. "Do you want to spend one more night with me?" "Yes, I would love to, but I need to meet face-to-face sometime, and you have classes tomorrow. Call me before you go to bed. I need to hear your voice before I go to bed." I kissed her for the last time and said, "With pleasure." I drove home, smiling to myself. Samantha told me last night that she could see herself falling in love with a guy like me. As I was driving down the street to my house, I saw Linda's car parked in her driveway. I parked on the road in front of my part of the house, wanting to avoid Linda. While I was unpacking, Linda knocked on my front door. "You arrived." "Yes, it is. Can we talk?" "Of course. What do you want to talk about?" "Can I come in?" "No. You are not allowed to be on my side. To be clear, this is my personal living space, and you are not welcome on this side. Never." Linda, clearly shocked, looked at me for a moment before turning to return to her room. The reality that I was not going to live on her side of the duplex had just become reality. We were both sitting at her kitchen table. "Jim, I love you, and I want everything to go back to normal. It will not happen." "Why?" "Because if you haven't noticed yet, you did something that changed the way I feel about you forever. It shouldn't be like this." "Actually, that's true. Nothing will undo what you did or how I feel about it." "But I love you." I collected my thoughts. "Let's say we were on a date as a couple with our friends. You left me and went with another man and spent the entire night and next morning having sex with him. If you had done this on our first date, would there have been a second?" "But Jim, it was Mark. I don't care who it was. You chose someone else over me." "Jim, I keep trying to tell you that I didn't choose Mark over you." "So you didn't choose to sneak out the back of the club. You didn't choose to have sex with Mark Lavaliere. It was just one night. You've had your whole life to show me how much you love me. The moment someone more famous spoke to you, I turned into trash. Does this mean I should keep you away from all famous athletes, famous actors, famous politicians? You know there's a marathon this weekend. Are you going to have sex with the winner?" "Jim, this isn't fair." In a quiet, even tone, I said, "So here it is. Now you want me to be fair. You want a chance to minimize your betrayal, a good chance to talk me out of my anger over what you did, a good chance to shame me for feeling betrayed, a fair chance to accuse me of not putting our family before my own pain. I seem to be the only one who is expected to be fair in this relationship." I reached across the table and took her hand. She smiled and took my hand with both of hers. I looked deep into Linda's eyes, knowing I was going to hurt her. Linda needed to know exactly how our new relationship would develop in the future. And yes, I was also excited to show her what it was like. "It's too late, Linda." "Too late?" "Yes, too late. I found another one." "No." Linda pulled her hands away from my palm as if my hand was on fire. "Do you know who it is? I'm sure Dee and your friends told you who I was with that night after you left. The redhead I danced with. The one who held me tightly while we danced. The woman who replaced you on the anniversary you threw away." When the words "replaced you" and "threw you away" came to her, I looked into Linda's eyes and saw sadness. I realized that Dee must have sent Linda photos of Samantha and I slow dancing together, looking like lovers. With anger simmering in her voice, Linda said, "Are you doing this to get back at me? Throwing some 24-year-old girl in my face to get even?" Actually, 21. I spent 4 days with her in the Bahamas. You know that dream vacation you and I always wanted to go on? It was impressive. I knew I had a big smile on my face when I said it, but I couldn't help it. The weekend was truly impressive. Linda glared at me after I finished speaking. I saw that my words made her very angry. I knew that the smirk on my face that I was left with increased her anger. I reminded myself of the children and took a deep breath, forcing my face to relax so that my grin disappeared. With a hot look in her eyes that I knew would be followed by some soul-searing condemnation, Linda opened her mouth and pointed her finger at me. But when she saw my grin appear again, she realized that I knew every word she was going to say. Linda froze. Then she exhaled slowly, closed her mouth, and placed her hand on the table. We sat quietly, staring at each other. I knew Linda wanted to yell at me, set my ass on fire, put me in my place for what I had done. But she realized that she had no moral ground left to stand on. The leverage she was used to in our relationship was based on love and trust. The same love and trust that she casually erased for one night of sex. It finally dawned on Linda that what she had done had cost her more than she had imagined. I'm sure that when Linda decided to sleep with Mark, she thought she would just spend some of the chips she had accumulated over the years of our marriage. She finally had a suspicion that she had foolishly put everything she had on the line. Linda sat quietly for a moment, staring at her hands clasped together on the table. "It doesn't matter. I love you." "Yes, you continue to be sure that your love means something special. Why do you think your love is important to me after what you did? It's obvious that my love for you means nothing to you, so why should I value your love?" "But I don't want to lose you." "Well, I don't understand why you thought you could completely destroy my trust in you and expect to keep me. You took me for granted and now you don't deserve me." Linda looked confused. "I'm going to my place. I still have a lot of work to do around the house. I'll be back to have dinner with you and the kids. Please don't bother me until then." I got up and returned to my apartment. Linda cried when I left. Leaving Linda was terribly painful. I wanted to hug her like before, but deep down I knew there was no going back to what we were. The Linda I thought of as my wife was not, and never will be again. Everything I will ever have with her will be a painful reminder of everything we could have had, everything she carelessly destroyed without a second thought or an ounce of guilt. Before dinner, the kids and I went to my side of the house to look around. I showed them the new kitchen area and how I was going to cut out the back wall and make it all glass to overlook the new pool. They looked worried as they looked at the fence dividing the backyard in half. They realized that this side would be Daddy's. I then showed them where their new rooms would be on my side of the house. "Why do I need 2 bedrooms in the house, Dad?" asked Tommy. "Because this side will be my home and that side will be your mother's home." "Emma, are you and your mom getting a divorce, Dad?" Mom doesn't say anything, no matter how many times we ask. "No, they just separated. I don't want to be a dad for the weekend, so I thought I'd just split the house and you two can live on whichever side you want that day." Before we could continue, Linda poked her head through the front door to announce that dinner was ready. We ate in silence. Linda was tense. It was clear that the children learned more about what was going on. Tommy blurted it out too loudly. "I'll move in with Dad as soon as he finishes decorating my room." Linda had a shocked look on her face. "Dad said that you are breaking up?" "We are not. It's just a misunderstanding and we're not done discussing it yet." Emma slammed her hand on the table and shouted, "Who changed? I want to know." Emma and Tommy looked back and forth between Linda and me. I stared at Linda. Linda stared at her plate. When Linda began to cry, the children got their answer. I told the children that their mother was tired and needed some rest. I helped Linda up and walked her to the bedroom, undressed her, and put her to bed. I quickly kissed her forehead, as if she were a little child who had woken up from a nightmare. I turned off the light and closed the door. I focused on feeling for Linda as I would have for one of my children. Adult child, who committed a terrible crime and was sentenced to prison for the rest of his life. I would still love my child, but he would no longer be a part of my daily life or thoughts. First, I went to Tommy's room. He lay on his bed and corresponded with his friends. I asked him if he wanted to talk about it. He said, "No, not really." I went to Emma's room. Emma was angry and crying. "Why did she do this, Dad?" "You have to ask her. You can't just forgive her?" "Then I would never be able to forgive myself." Emma sighed. I know, but I want us to stay together as a family. We are together. I just won't sleep in the same room as your mother anymore. I hugged Emma. We said we loved each other, and I returned to my part of the house. This has become our new normal. I always left for work before the kids got up, so our morning routine didn't change. Linda and I still split our time between taking the kids to their friends, to group activities, and to sports. We still had our usual family dinner together whenever we could, in Linda's half of the house. Linda tried to talk to me about us about once a week, but I turned her off saying I didn't want to discuss it. Another obvious change was school functions. I have never stood or sat next to Linda during our children's school activities. If Linda sidled up to me, I immediately apologized and went to the toilet. When I returned, I sat or stood somewhere else. I've never been alone for long, as at least one of the single or divorced women we knew quickly found themselves next to me. And yes, they always asked. And my answer was, we separated. Over the next month, I bought new clothes, new appliances, new kitchen cabinets, and new furniture for my side. My side has been transformed into a swanky new bachelor pad with a giant TV and new entertainment system. When I bought a new top-of-the-line convertible, Linda tried to ask me about our finances. Jim, can we afford all this? This car must have cost a fortune. Well, Linda, my car was 8 years older than yours, and I needed a new one. You always bought a new car twice as often as I did, so I just invested a few of those missed years into my new car. As for everything else that's new, you really didn't expect me to live in a shack, did you? What about the furniture? I thought I was being considerate by not forcing you to give up any of the favorite furniture you bought to decorate your home. I would be happy to share our furniture. It's okay. I've never been attracted by your taste in furniture. Have you never said anything before? I never said anything before because I wanted you to be happy, and furniture didn't matter much to me. I let her think about that statement for a few moments. Don't worry, we have enough money. In fact, the house is paid for, and as soon as the children move out, my side will be too big for my needs. I'll rent out my part of the house for extra income, so money won't be a problem. Linda gave me her best smile, her "someone is going to get lucky today" smile, and reached out to squeeze my shoulder. I'm not complaining. I like your new car. You've been working out and looking sexy in your new clothes. Thank you. I can't take all the credit. Tommy and Emma wanted me to buy a convertible so they could drive it, and Samantha helped me pick out new clothes and furniture. We have very similar tastes. Linda's smile disappeared at the mention of Samantha, and her hand fell from my shoulder. Oh, I was just wondering. Linda then turned and walked away. I wasn't trying to throw Samantha in Linda's face, but Samantha was becoming a big part of my life. I also realized that I now think about Samantha quite often and very little about Linda's feelings. Samantha began to become a regular on my side of the house. At this point, Tommy and Emma began to spend most of their time on my side. Tommy has already moved into my side as his master bedroom. Emma, who had mostly stayed on Linda's side, began hanging out with Samantha more and more. Samantha seemed to become Emma's cool older sister. Soon, Samantha began spending all weekends and most weeknights with me. The only disagreement Linda voiced was when I insisted that Samantha come with me to our family dinner for the second time. Linda was polite, but everyone could tell she didn't want this to become a regular thing. The next day, Linda ran into me as I was leaving for work. "Jim, I appreciate you talking, but I wish you wouldn't bring your girlfriend during our dinner. This is our time to be family with kids. This is wonderful. In the future, I won't come to dinner when Samantha isn't there. But I will also have an open invitation for the kids to have dinner with me and Samantha if they want. It's not fair, Jim. This is the only time we can be together as a family." So, are we being fair again, Linda? Okay. To be honest, Samantha is becoming a big part of my life, and I want her to be more involved. Samantha and the children get along great. I don't think excluding Samantha from our family dinners is fair to her, fair to me, or fair to the kids. If you want to exclude her, you're going to exclude me too. But Jim, Linda, your honesty has always been that you bought yours. To hell with my feelings. I bet you thought you were being honest when you slipped out the back door to have sex with Mark Lavaliere. Even though we were no longer living together, it was surprising to see how easily Linda thought she could still manipulate me. Linda thought she had leverage over me beyond the well-being of the children. Linda, you threw honor out the window that night. So if you don't like it, fair would be to start cooking all the dinners on my end, and I'll let you come over when we have them. Samantha is a great cook and loves to do it. With tears in her eyes, Linda said, "I'm sorry I brought this up. Samantha is more than welcome to come over for dinner anytime she wishes." After the pool and hot tub were completed, Tommy especially enjoyed having Kim, Christy, and Susan come hang out by the new pool. They flirted shamelessly with Tommy. I know they were having a friendly competition to see who could make him blush the brightest. They first started competing by wearing tighter and tighter swimsuits. In the end, Christy couldn't really compete because her large breasts wouldn't allow anything too small or they would fall out. But Christy won after she kissed Tommy in the pool, pressing her big breasts against him. Tommy couldn't get out of the pool for a good 10 minutes, even though the water was cold. Tommy was definitely the real winner in their competition. As a result, Tommy gained more confidence from the girls and started a girlfriend at school. Once they met Tommy's girlfriend, the girls stopped flirting with Tommy and treated his girlfriend like the luckiest girl in the world. Samantha has some wonderful friends. And no, I never allowed Linda to come to my side of the house. I didn't want Linda to complicate my relationship with Samantha. But unfortunately, a few years later, Samantha graduated from high school and we broke up. I saw it in Samantha's face when we went to Susan's wedding together. I knew that I was essentially becoming her sugar daddy because of our age difference. It didn't matter to me, but I could tell it mattered to Samantha. Don't get me wrong, we got along wonderfully. We spent the whole weekend together and I got to know most other families. We often went on vacation together, sometimes with children. When she mentioned that she was thinking about moving, I proposed to her. She told me that for her, I was honored that I invited her, but that she wanted to try a family tradition. I told her that I would like to start a new family. She never said it, but I saw the conflict in her eyes. I was the perfect man for her, just not the right age. Unfortunately, I felt like the other woman was taking me for granted for being a great guy. As subtle as I could, I tried to make Samantha realize that her long list of standards was becoming a wall that no man could climb. Trust is the foundation of healthy relationships. But as with Linda, I became a victim of my own success. I could tell Samantha thought guys like me were a dime a dozen. I pointed out to Samantha that Linda was thinking the same thing and looked where she is now. When Samantha replied, "I would never be so stupid," our fate was sealed. In the end, I told Samantha that I understood, and if she changed her mind, I would always be there for her. Maybe we'll meet again later in life when she feels like the age difference isn't that important. I don't regret a single moment spent with Samantha, and at least she had the decency to talk to me honestly instead of sneaking out the back door of the club. As for Linda's friends, my former friends, I ran into them from time to time and they tried to convince me that I should return to Linda. After they released their tripe, I always ended with, "Sounds very convincing." Now tell me how you feel when your spouse cheats on you, because from what I saw that night, not only do they find cheating acceptable, but they encourage others. In fact, I don't think it was a coincidence that we ended up at a club that Mark Lavaliere was known to frequent. I just happened to have the hottest wife. Karma is what it is. And a few months later, I heard that the girls had decided to move their girls' night out to a new dance club that Mark Lavaliere frequented, without telling their husbands. One of Dave's friends at work, I mentioned to Dave that I saw Dee dancing with Mark at the club. He even mentioned that Mark disappeared about an hour later, around the same time the table full of ladies left the club. Dave's friend did not see Dee leave with the group. All the wives denied that they were there at all, and there must have been a mistake. A few days later, Dave's friend sent a photo of him and his girlfriend at a club. In the background, Mark Lavaliere could be clearly seen talking to wives at the table. The wives finally confessed, but they all said that no one went with Mark. Of course, their stories didn't match, and eventually the true story came out. But not wanting to give away their friend, The wives refused to say who was the one who left with Mark. Unfortunately for them all, when they finally named Dee, it was too late for any of them. Too many lies and trust has been damaged. From what I was told, when all the husbands met to compare wives' stories, Dave's closing comment summed it up. They covered each other for a long time. They all lied to us too easily. This isn't their first girls' night out. How do we know it wasn't just Dee's turn to have fun with Mark Lavaliere, or anyone else for that matter? Every husband saw the expression on his wives' faces when Mark Lavaliere approached our table that evening. Everyone heard how their wives condoned Linda's behavior and how lucky she was to have this chance. After the first bachelorette party, which Linda attended, all the guys knew that wife afterwards. They were excited because Linda talked about her sex with Mark. At first, the husbands were happy to get a little extra stimulation in the bedroom, but a couple of months later, one of the husbands joked to the other how much he hated sleeping on silk sheets. After comparing, both husbands realized that the silk sheets were new and both sets were white. In conversation with other husbands, 4 beds with new white ones were discovered with silk sheets. After Dee's night with Mark, the husbands became concerned that their wives were reliving their own nights with him. All 4 couples divorced within a year. I found out about all this because Dave was the first one to get divorced, and he apologized to me after he told me what led to his divorce. Each husband later personally apologized to me for their role that night with Linda. Everyone basically said, if I had stood up for you then, perhaps I would have sent a clearer message to my own wife, and we would still be married. As for Mark Lavaliere, his picking up of married women ended up pissing off the wrong person. Nobody knows who did it, but as Mark Lavaliere walked out of the back of the club with his latest conquest, someone in a ski mask tasered Mark. Before Mark could come to his senses, the guy hit him in the private parts. While Mark was screaming, holding his crotch, the guy literally crushed both of Mark's kneecaps. Even though they had the video, no one was ever brought to justice. There were too many husbands who had reasons and opportunities. Mark lost the ability to walk. As for Linda, the last time we talked about us was the day Emma moved out. We were already divorced, and I had already rented out my part of the house and moved into a condo by the sea. Standing in the driveway, Linda asked if she could talk to me after Emma pulled out to go to college. Jim, I still love you. I made a terrible mistake, and I've regretted it every day since. Since then, I have not dated or even looked at another man. I know you haven't been in a serious relationship with anyone since Samantha, and I'd like you to move in with me again. Just to see how it goes? Linda then took the necklace off her neck and handed it to me. At the end of it hung my wedding ring, the ring I gave to Dee the night Linda left me. Linda looked at me with hope in her eyes. You still don't understand what went wrong, Linda. That night, you thought you could test my love for you, when in reality, it was a test of your love for me. But I really love you. No, you like what we once had. You loved that you had the perfect marriage, the perfect husband, the perfect children. You liked that I didn't treat you like property, like a trophy wife, that we shared important decisions. You loved that our lovemaking, although less frequent, was just as intense as when we first met. You liked that I always cared about how you felt, ahead of everyone else. You liked that I gave you financial security to do what you wanted. But more than anything else, you liked that I trusted you without a doubt. Now you love me more than before because you know that you will never find anyone else who would make you as happy. No one will be as in love with you as I once was. Linda didn't move. She still held the necklace at arm's length, but her hand turned white as she clutched it with a desperate grip. You didn't appreciate what you had, and now it's gone. I can't be near you anymore. I will never again put you in a position where you have the opportunity to do what you did to me. I always thought it was us against the world, but you killed us when you ran away to be with Mark Lavaliere. Linda began to cry. How many times do I have to say that I regret going with him? It was never about Mark, Linda. You thought you were lucky when Marc Lavaliere decided to take you home with him, but I was lucky too. When I was at my lowest, and your friends tried to convince me that I was a fool for being upset, I realized that you showed me that we truly are a wonderful couple. But not because of you, but because of me. You left because my love was so strong, not yours. My love would never even think of doing what you did. My love was the music to which we also danced, which made us so special. As I was sitting at this damn table, angry, thinking about these things, I saw Samantha across the room looking sad. When she saw me looking at her, she smiled. Her wonderful smile reminded me that I was still a man, and I had a chance to be happy with someone, that I could pour my love and devotion into a new we, a different us. Then you opened my eyes and set me free. With that, I climbed into my convertible and drove away with a big smile on my face. I couldn't wait to get home as soon as possible. Samantha quit her job out of town and moved in with me last week. Since then, she has done an excellent job of convincing me that she always needs me in her life. Trust is a wonderful thing. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.